Hi, welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today we're smiling with our Smiley S'more and doing a little camping too. So we're using Smiley S'more in black licorice and white cardstock, simple stripes backdrop portrait in a bunch of neutrals, the outside in stitched circle and guava, and the hearts and stars skinny tag, S'more the Merrier, Build a Campsite, and lots of different cardstocks we'll talk about as we build our campsite. And I also use the pop-up smile and Oliver's stitched ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and the star stand from the cake slice box. I decided to adhere my simple stripes on a piece of typing paper that's just a little smaller than my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card. Put some adhesive all around that piece of paper and then just line up my stripes in the color arrangement that I want. This is speckled eggshell, and then paper bag. And the reason I didn't put them directly on the front of my card is I want to cut a circle out of it, and I didn't want that to cut right through the entire note card. So that is craft, and this is ground coffee. So once I have these stripes all put together, and they're very easy to line up, they fit perfectly onto the front of my card. And I'm going to take my outside in stitched circle and run that through my die cut machine. So the striped panel, take out that center, and I can adhere it to my note card now. Perfect size. I love these stripes because I don't have to think about them at all. They just line up perfectly. Now, I was going to put my circle in the middle, but I realized I want to stamp my images first. And these images are from S'more the Merrier. I picked out all the s'more ingredients. We have marshmallows and graham crackers and chocolate, of course. And I'm using Lawn Fawn's walnut ink and my acrylic block and just stamping them all around the stripes, trying to get them pretty well dispersed. And once I have everything stamped on here, then I can add my circle to the center, and I'm going to create the sentiment. Now this also comes from S'more the Merrier. I always want to say S'more the S'merrier. Oh well, S'more the Merrier. I'm prepping my skinny tag with anti-static powder using clear ink. I'm going to stamp that down, and then I will use white embossing powder. Sprinkle that on and heat that up with my heat tool. That will melt that powder, and then I will add the second part of the sentiment. There are a lot of different words and phrases in the stamp set that can be connected together to form different sentiments, and I love how easy it is to connect Lawn Fawn sentiments. They're just on rectangles, so they butt up together at the right spacing, and our sentiment is going to say, everything is s'more fun with you. Well, now I can start putting Smiley S'more together, and I'm using Lawn Fawn's double-sided adhesive sheets. So I'm lifting the paper off one side of the adhesive sheet, putting my papers down. So I have my white cardstock and my black licorice cardstock. Then I will put that backing on the adhesive sheet to keep everything else protected, and I can cut out my squares because that's all I need for Smiley. And then I can take the die and lay it right on top of the paper, and as it goes through the die cut machine, it will cut it out like a sticker. I cut it out in black because that's going to be my outline, and you can see the piece that has his little arms and legs on it, and it'll just all fit right on there as the base. But the white part I'm coloring with Copic markers, and I'm using E21 and 23 and I think 25 as well for the graham crackers. I like to keep it all together. It's easier to color when I have one piece instead of a lot of little pieces. But I also like that I can just scribble and go outside the lines because I won't use the outline of this white cardstock. So kind of freeing that way, I guess. All right, I'm just gonna blend all my colors in a little bit. I don't know exactly what I'm thinking as far as shading here. I just wanted it to look like it had a variation in the shadows. Also, maybe a little darker underneath the marshmallow where that's sitting, and then on the edges of the graham cracker and in those little holes as well. I'm coloring the chocolate with an E74 all throughout, and then shading that with E77 and E79. I think if I had a working white gel pen, I would add that to the chocolate as well, just to give it that glistening look. But I think I have 3 that are dried up and not working, so I'll have to get a new white gel pen. But just blending that all together, making it look as chocolatey as I can. And I like these E70s for that chocolate color. Time to toast the marshmallow, and I'm using a Y21 to start that out, and I'm going to pair it with some E21, get that warm, toasty, brownish, golden look. Going in then with the darker Y23, and I'll use the E23 on just the edges, because I don't like my marshmallows too dark. Just a nice golden brown, gooey, but not burnt at all. I don't like the burnt. Once I have the sides the way I like them, I am coming in with the colorless blender to blend that edge, soften it up into the white of the marshmallow. This die set comes with cheeks as well, so an R81, and my little sticker came out, so I just stuck it back on the paper so that I could color it easily. And then the R83 to shade those cheeks. Come back in and blend that out, and now I've got my little cheeks and everything's colored and ready to assemble. So I'm taking the release paper off of the black licorice cardstock, and I'm keeping that little face up at the top there because I'm going to use the little eyes and mouth, but I'm just adding that sticker onto the base, and now I can pull off each of the individual pieces, and they fit in perfectly like a little puzzle. I like to use a thicker white cardstock for the inside. I don't know, makes it feel just like it's a little bit puffier than a thinner cardstock. So I love it when it's all coming together because it looks so much better with the black outline than with my scribbled edges. And now I'm taking the little eyes and mouth release paper off of the back of that black cardstock, and I can put it right over my S'more and poke those little eyes and mouth down and get them right in there. Make sure that I've got them pressed down right, and there's our little guy. Just needs his cheeks, and those cheeks are so cute. I love that it gives it a little color to this S'more, and that's what helped me to decide on that guava cardstock for the background. Put a little foam adhesive on the back of my skinny tag here, and there's a little hole on the one side, so I'm going to use Lawn Fawn's glow-in-the-dark hemp cord, but I'm just using it because it's a nice neutral color, kind of like that craft color. I doubled it up and poked it through the hole, and then I'm just putting those 2 ends through the loop, and I'll cut that down so that it's at a good size for my card, and Smiley the S'more will just sit right on there. But we're going to make Smiley into a magnet. I'm using sheet magnet. Now this is like for a vent, covers a vent, and it's magnetic, so it cuts out real easily in the die cut machine, but Smiley's kind of square, so I just needed to cut it into a square to put behind him. Put it on some very strong double-sided adhesive. This is Lawn Fawn's 1/4-inch double-sided tape, and then you can see he will stick on metal real easily. So it's just a nice little gift. Someone can take Smiley off of their card and put them on their refrigerator or whatever. Now, I am taking some of that release paper from the double-sided adhesive sheets so that it's easy to get Smiley off of the card. They don't feel like they have to rip them right off. So I'm putting my tag down, and then I will add some double-sided tape to this release paper, and I'm using Smiley to help me figure out where to position it on my circle and press that down. So the release paper is now stuck to that circle, and I put just one little strip of double-sided tape on the other side of the release paper, and that's on the magnet. Now that's gonna roll right off that magnet once they take it off. Well, let's move on into the inside of this card. This is the pop-up smile, and I like to use my scoreboard and bone folder to just reinforce those score lines, especially with a nice thick cardstock like this, because it reinforces where I want the paper to bend. And I just take my time, and I'm speeding this way up so that you can watch how much I'm taking just a little bit at a time and bending each crease the way it should go, and then reinforcing those folds with my bone folder. And now I can put the double-sided tape on both the top and the bottom and fit it right into the crease of the card. Now I just took the release paper off the bottom part and stuck that onto the card, and now I'll take the release paper off the top and fold the card down, and it's right where it needs to be, and there it is. Now I want to add that pop of color that was on the front of the card, bring it inside the card with the guava cardstock, and so I'm using Oliver's stitched ABCs on those letters. They fit perfectly on the pop-ups. And then I'm also going to spell out S'more, so it'll say Smile S'more. And I'm using the exclamation point and also the comma or the apostrophe, in this case, from Oliver's stitched 1, 2, 3s. Just glue everything down, and we've got our saying inside, and that we could stop there if we wanted to, and it would be great. But we're going to add a campsite here. I'm clipping apart the fire logs to create some extra logs to go around our scene, and then I'm just coloring them with an E23, just following the lines that are embossed in the logs, giving it a little more depth, some shading, and then here's that double log, and we're gonna use that for our regular fire. The Build-A-Campsite set comes with a lot of great little pieces, details. It's just a well thought out set. So after I have these logs shaded, I'm gonna move on to the sign, and I cut one out of paper bag cardstock and one out of craft cardstock, and the one that's craft I also cut out the word camp that comes with the set. And when I layer the two signs, it'll look like the word camp was carved into that wood. And we'll see that when I layer everything, but let's continue shading. I'm using a G94, and I'll also use a G99 to shade the lantern and the grass and the trees, and those are all noble fir cardstock. I grew up camping. My dad was the Boy Scout executive, so that was his job, and we tent camped, but as we got a little older, my mom wanted a camper, so we had a pop-up camper growing up, and actually we have a pop-up camper now, so we take our girls camping as well, and they really enjoy that. But I do like to sleep on a mattress. It makes the days more fun when I get a good night's sleep. One time we were camping right outside of Yellowstone, and we were driving through Yellowstone and eating an apple. We were eating apples in the car, and just by reflex, my husband handed me an apple core, and I rolled down the window and threw the apple core out, and I thought, It was littering in Yellowstone. I mean, usually an apple core is not a big deal because it's gonna disintegrate, but not in Yellowstone. I mean, you just don't throw anything out in Yellowstone. So I was mortified. My family was just laughing at me, and I was watching for cops for a little while, the rangers to come take me away. But we were safe. But I still feel bad about that. All right, well, I'm shading the flames in Y19 and YR27, and I'm taking the little flame out of the pearlescent vellum, and I'm going to glue that onto the lantern. See, this is one of those great details in this set. When I put that sunflower cardstock behind that vellum, it's gonna just have that soft glow that we would see in that lantern. So I just really like that detail. Here's that sunflower cardstock, and I'll put that on the back of the vellum, and we'll have our lantern all ready to go. Now to put that camp sign together, taking the letters out of the craft cardstock sign, and I'll glue that onto the paper bag cardstock sign, and we'll have our letters. And I will also put back those centers of the A and the P, so that looks like those are carved into the sign as well. I'm using my craft pick to clean up the glue around those little pieces, and then I'll put this sign onto the post. Just glue that on there, make it a little bit cockeyed so that it's a jaunty little look there. Now I'm cutting a slit into the double logs, and here's where that cake slice box piece comes in. I'm putting that star inside the slit, and it has these two tabs that I'll bend in opposite directions, and when they are set up like that, it makes it stand up. And I'll glue those tabs onto the logs on the bottom, and then once those are glued on, I can snip off the excess so you don't see those tabs. Now we have a cool 3D look to our campfire. So let's build that fire, and I'm using the pearlescent vellum again. I'm putting it behind the flames, kind of gives it that, I don't know, kind of a glow look. So this flame is canned pumpkin cardstock, and then adding another piece of the pearlescent vellum, and then the fake tan cardstock, a little more vellum, and then the sunflower cardstock. And there's our fire. I'll glue it right onto that star, and then cut off the little points to the star so that they don't show behind the fire. Now let's set up our tent. I have speckled eggshell for the front and the little flaps that come off the front. See all these great details. I am shading that with an E21, and I'm going to come back and blend that into the speckled eggshell cardstock with a colorless blender. But it's not really exactly the look I was going for, so I'm adding a little more of that E21, and then decided to shade it with an E50 because that kind of brought in the color a little closer to that speckled eggshell. So now we have some shading behind the tent flaps, and I'm going to shade a little bit on the flaps as well. And I'll shade inside the tent. So the inside is paper bag cardstock. I'm using an E23, and I'll use an E21. I'm just kind of figuring out where, with some little dots, where I wanted to have that shading show up. So there's my E23 and E21 to blend that in a bit. And so now we have it a bit darker inside the tent. Glue the tent all together, and now I want to hang the lantern inside the tent using a little of that glow-in-the-dark hemp cord. Just threading that through the lantern, and I'm going to use mini glue dots to make sure that stays where it needs to be, and also to hang up that rope so that that doesn't go anywhere either. Clip off the excess of the hemp cord, and to make sure that everything's kind of at the same level, I'm using glue dots to put the front of the tent on to the back. So now let's set up camp inside the card. The tent's gonna sit on top of this pop-up smile, and so those little pieces that are another great detail, I needed to cut those off because I can't put the little stakes on my tent because they won't fit on top of my pop-up smile, but that's okay. And then adding some of the details, the camp sign and a little log, tuck some pine trees behind the tent, and just make sure that I have them placed where I want, and then I'll glue those down, and then I'll add some grass as well down lower on the campsite just to kind of spread that green color around. And the nice thing about the 3D effect is that it's in layers. I have the grass in back and a couple of logs tucked behind the smile letters. And now here is our campfire, and I put a little double-sided tape on the bottom and it will stand straight up. Now this is a nice thick cardstock, so as the card is closed, you can just fold that little flame down, and then when you open the card, you look at it and you know, oh, it needs to just be popped up, and it stays popped up while it's open. So our card is all done. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and maybe it helped you smile some more. And I hope it encouraged you to maybe make a magnetic Smiley S'more for yourself, or a pop-up campsite inside a card. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.